Coming up next, she was a promising actress who had some great roles on TV, and she was even a finalist to play the role of Princess Leia in Star Wars. She even auditioned with Harrison Ford, but as she'll tell you in our interview next, he didn't like her. She also managed to piss off William Shatner in another appearance, so she didn't get the roles, and it turns out her acting career would be short-lived, which was fine by her since she was a passionate singer in a band that was ready to rise from the underground. She became a new wave icon with several classics in the 80s, including a #1 hit and today's underground classic that shook up the mainstream. With a deadpan vocal and a cosmopolitan, sophisticated European vogue sound that was actually by the way of Orange County. From a video that's been banned by YouTube twice, we're going to try it again here. The interview's coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if music is part of the joy of your life, you're going to want to subscribe below to this channel so you never miss an episode of our daily features. Check the box as well. It's the red button. You probably know that by now. Make sure to check us out on Patreon to become an insider with us. So it's time for another episode of our series, Revelations. This is, of course, where featured artists reveal rare stories about their greatest songs or albums, fascinating insight about their careers. And on this installment of Revelations, we have new insight into the new wave classic from several interviews that we've done with Berlin lead singer Terri Nunn. We've combined them to tell a story that you're going to love. Terri Nunn is the Princess Leia of the 80s, new wave. Her divine beauty, towering voice, and fiery live performances have inspired contemporaries like Lady Gaga and Florence Welch. Even Madonna was an ardent admirer who was a member of the Berlin fan club before she became an icon. Now, I say Princess Leia of new wave, the Princess Leia of new wave, because Terri Nunn was highly considered for that role in Star Wars, as she'll tell us following. She included the story behind auditioning with Harrison Ford. She'll also tell us the story behind Berlin's classic song, The Metro, including how she changed the melody to improve the classic song written by, of course, John Crawford. Here's Terri with the story. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. I'm wearing my red pair here. It's got Professor of Rock on the side with a little music note. Again, you can put things on the side. I designed them specifically for this, and you can do the same. Just go to zenni.com. You can do a virtual try-on, see how you look. You can add so many great features. You're going to love it. Here's the story of Metro with Terri Nunn. Before you broke out with music in Hollywood, you were an actress. You had parts on shows like T.J. Hooker, William Shatner, James at 15. And then, of course, you auditioned for a little movie, did okay in America, called Star Wars.
I'm through.
Now look, when R2 has been safely delivered to my forces.
Did your agent just say, got this science fiction movie?
Oh, yeah. It was the coolest ever. And it was literally, I mean, it wasn't made yet, so we didn't know what we were talking about. We were in deck chairs in a warehouse. And George Lucas was a kid, you know, like we were, you know. I was, I don't know, 16, 17.
Wow.
And Harrison Ford was 21, maybe? I don't know. But he was working as a carpenter on George Lucas's kitchen. And he said, but I'm an actor too. And George said, okay, well, why don't you come down and read with these actors that I'm trying out for my new movie. And so Harrison sat and read with everybody.
To a battle station with enough firepower to destroy an entire system.
And then he got the job. So, you know, whatever.
Well, I mean, did you know when you were with him that this guy would become one of the biggest box office stars ever?
No. I knew he didn't like me.
Tell me about that.
There was just something, he was just like not into me at all. And I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah,
but I'm glad, because in those days, you couldn't be an actor and a musician. It didn't cross over, really. Elvis Presley was an exception, but most people were one or the other. And I enjoyed acting, but I'm a night person, and music was my, you know, big
your
dream.
lifeblood.
And so, yeah, I was really hoping to make a living doing that. And so, yeah.
And you did. And you're one of the only people who has worked with Han Solo and Captain Kirk.
He didn't like me either.
He doesn't like anybody here.
This is okay. I'll tell the story. It was awful. It was awful. He was William Shatner was sitting in the makeup chair, and I came up behind him, and I looked down at his hair, and it was like, I said, "Can I touch that?" And he went, "Okay," and so I did. I said, "Wow, it feels like AstroTurf," and it was a rug. I didn't know that. Oh. I didn't know that. Oh, God, it was bad. So, yeah, he didn't like me anymore.
Oh, man.
Riding on the metro.
Tell me about Metro and you guys recording that and kind of the story behind that.
John wrote it about a girlfriend who was going over to Europe at the time, and he was terrified she was going to meet some hot Italian guy and leave him. So that was the inspiration behind it. That was his, nightmarish fantasy about her and how awful it was going to be, and she's going to break up with him. And yeah, I didn't have anything to do with that lyric. I worked on the melodies with him, and we put the song together musically. That was my help, but it was really his brainchild. And it was Metro that, we were just kind of fishing around like, what is Berlin? We knew what we liked, Ultravox and Kraftwerk, and we wanted that kind of thing. But like with my voice, which was more emotional but we hadn't really gelled into what the sound was going to be. And so we're just doing songs. And when Metro was done, that was like okay, that's it. That's going to be what we judge all our songs by, that song. They're like little kids' songs. You don't know how they're going to turn out, but some of them just are wow. And some of them like, nah, they die early. And so they're all different and there's no way to tell. But Metro solidified Berlin to us so that we had something that we could hold on to and say, this is our sound. That's sparse, dark, unhappy, sensual, but mechanical, metallic sound with my, miserable vocals and emotions and, what we were feeling at the time was we were 20. We were either horny or miserable. That was how we wrote the lyrics. So that really helped us as a song become a band.
Riding on the metro.
For me, it was probably one of the 20 new wave opuses that really inspired that movement. Even mid-year when I was interviewing him, he was telling me that he was a huge fan of that song when it came out.
Thank you.
Speaking of Ultravox,
Wow.
But
oh my God! Yeah. I can't tell you how John will just lose it when I tell him that. Thank you, because Ultravox is one of the reasons he put Berlin together. He turned me on to Ultravox.
Vienna, what a great song.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'll tell him. Thank you for that.
I figured you knew that.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we were just chit-chatting as I was doing the interview.
Did you interview him for the show?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we were talking about Vienna and the new wave song. He had the book, because I think the writer had given him the book or whatever. Okay. And we were just talking through some of the songs in it. Yeah. And it is. It's one of those songs that kind of helped put new wave on the map and influence that. But also the video. The thing about the video is that when you take the gun out of the guy's bag and then you turn to the window, I'm like, man, she could make a good Bond girl.
I remember a soldier sleeping next to me.
Oh, thanks. I was trying to do the Farrah Fawcett hair, make it big. Do you remember? It was like all teased up, but that never worked live. I don't have really any body in my hair at all. So by the second song, it was just flat and awful, and so I had to go for color. But I remember that. I just remember that look, because in the video I could touch it up and put lots of spray in it and make it real Farrah.
I remember hating you for loving me.
You've heard System of a Down's cover of it, and John Frusciante of Red Hot Chili Peppers did a little cover of it as well.
Never heard that.
Yeah? Well, we're going to have to catch up.
Have you
on
heard
that.
every single piece of music ever made? Because you seem to know every single piece of music.
I remember the letter wrinkled in my hand.
I never asked you this before, but after the lyric, when you say, and you were waiting there swimming through apologies, you sing sorry there.
And you were waiting there, swimming through apologies.
It's not on the lyric sheet. So I was wondering, was that something that came naturally to you when you were recording it? Whose idea was it to put sorry?
That was my idea. So yeah, I come up with little answer lines or harmonies or, complimentary lines underneath things, and that one was one I came up with.
What did you think when you first heard it?
The first time I heard it, he had the melody as, I'm alone, sitting with my empty glass, my four walls, follow me through my past. So it was just real monotone, mechanistic, and I thought, okay, there's something there, but it needed a little more variety in it. It was a little too much the same, so I just kind of threw in alone, in a glass, four walls, follow me through my past.
Paris trains, I emerged in London rain.
You were influenced and listened to, Stevie Nicks and Grace Slick and those were, and Ann Wilson, and those were people that you really, you loved their vocal style. But that doesn't sound anything like Berlin, but you were finding your identity, and talk about that a little bit.
Well, you might hear, speaking of Metro, I patterned my vocal on that after Debbie Harry, because I wanted it to be snotty, and I wanted it to be tough, even though it's not. It's a song about a guy leaving me. He's going off and he's having an affair, and he's finding, someone better, and I'm sitting here with my broken glass, drowning my sorrows. That's what the song's about. And so it's really sad, but I wanted to be like tough about it, and you were waiting there, swimming through your apologies, and and Debbie Harry was the only singer at the time that demonstrated that a lot, and I really liked it, that punk attitude.
The video was so great because at that moment MTV was giving people a new look at pop music, because before that you might see it on the midnight special or whatever shows were on American Bandstand, but video gave you guys and a lot of these bands a new artistic way to show themselves to their fans. And that video was played on MTV quite a bit, and I know that was exhausting for you because the director was really kind of pushing you to, because there's a crying scene. You had to do it over and over, that subway scene, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was the usual, I don't know why they booked the back-to-back videos and then getting on a plane to start a tour the next day. So by the time we got to the Metro, we had to finish that thing that night, because we were on a plane the next day, and we weren't going to finish it. It would just not be done. And so that was like the last shot at like 3 a.m, where I'm walking around and I'm just done. I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I hate you. I hate everybody. I hate myself. And I was literally crying. And he was like, yeah, perfect. It was like exactly what he wanted, right? He wanted me to fall apart, just lose my right on camera. And so he's shooting everything. Yeah. We're going to be going for another 5 hours, Terry. No, I can't do this anymore. I can't just shoot.
Oh, man.
So that's why I was just so emotional at that point. We got it done, but yeah, there's a lot of that.
In that moment, when new wave is becoming more prevalent, and you guys are going on tour, and all these things are happening, what do you remember most stands out to you about the scene from that time? Because you had the landscape completely changing. It was like the tsunami that was kind of wiping away everything, and this music was coming out that meant something to us as nerds and outcasts, and we were finally hearing music that spoke to us. It was real, right? Because when you listen to pop music, like top 40 music, there's really great stuff that came out in the 80s, but I didn't relate to it necessarily. It didn't speak to me. And I remember trying to find my musical identity as a kid, like what spoke to me. And like, you had your stuff like Billy Joel and Neil Diamond and Dolly Parton and stuff that you grew up with that your parents were listening to. That was kind of their music. And then like you jump on things like hair metal bands and stuff like that, but that didn't feel as natural. Then all of a sudden, my friends and I, we find like Berlin and Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears, and that leads us down this rabbit hole of The Cure and Joy Division and all that kind of stuff. And all that was happening. And so what were your memories of that moment in time?
Like anything was possible. It was so different, even to me. I loved it. I loved how different it was. I loved that it had nothing to do with anything before it, really. There were punk elements to it, and of course rock elements, but it was turning into its own thing, and the electronics of it was completely, the whole melding was, anything could happen. And the way, what people were talking about in the songs, you're just mentioning that, and when I think of Romeo Void, am I like, you better we slept together. I mean, this was honest woman talk, it was, nobody said that. But she was, and I loved it. I just loved that anything was possible, and anybody could get heard. It just was wide open to a whole new genre of music, and I wanted it so bad, because for me, after glam rock, to me, it really started with Bowie, and then, T-Rex, the New York Dolls, but it didn't really coalesce into anything. It didn't get big, and then it was just arena rock in the 70s and corporate disco in the 70s. It's just like, where's my music? I want what my brother had in the 60s. He had lots of cool stuff. And it was all different. It was all fresh and weird and great. And this isn't fresh and weird and great. This is just coming from companies, and it's all packaged nice. And I don't relate to this.
Yeah.
And so when this happened, it was like, finally, it's happening. Something that's ours, that we created, that we can relate to, that's saying what we want to say. Totally get it. My daughter's 15, and I don't get a lot of the stuff she listens to, but it doesn't matter, because it speaks to her. And that's what we need, especially when we're teenagers and everything's starting to form, and we're starting to decide who we are and what we believe in and what we don't. And we need those avenues of music that speak for us and speak to us. And that's what it felt like for me with new wave and punk. It was speaking to me and for me.
Riding on the metro.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about this new wave classic. What are your memories of this song? And also, what are your thoughts on Terri going up for the part of Princess Leia? That would have been interesting. Let us know below. If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe below, and to don't forget to check out our new merch, our new show on Patreon. Help us keep the music alive. That's really the idea here. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.